Hello. This week we're going to concentrate on something which is probably the closest thing in all of bridge to my heart, and that is declare play. I've been a hog of hands for years and years, and I must admit I love playing the dummy. But I think that's probably true of everybody. We might find that we have problems in communicating sometimes our bids to partners. We have maybe even difficulty in communicating in defense. But when it comes to declare play, there are very few of us who don't think we've got the makings of a great player. And that often is the case, but sometimes it isn't. Now the truth is, I don't want to lie to you, and it's really not going to be easy to make a person a top-class declarer with just 1 or 2 lessons. That won't happen. You need to spend a lot of time practicing, whether it's at home, whether it's in a club, whether it's amongst your friends, because really experience is a very important factor in this department. But I do hope at the end of this program today, you will perhaps become a little bit clearer in your thinking. Take away what I call the blob syndrome, which happens to everybody, which is that your mind, when you start playing, is like a big blob with no clear line of thought. And you have confused things which run around in your mind and make you just pull cards out and not go in a particular direction. If we can do that and make you a little bit clearer, that will be what we want to do. Off is 1 or 2 of the very basic parts of declare play, and one of those is the dealing and handling with the trump suit. Michelle, maybe you can come in and help me on this.
Yes. The first thing you learn when you're playing in a suit contract is that you have a secret weapon called the trump suit, where even the smallest card can win a trick from an ace. Though it is a secret weapon, it is also one which is often mishandled by beginners. As soon as they learn that they can use this weapon, they start roughing everything in sight, rather like a child thrashing around in a bathtub. Handling trumps is a delicate subject requiring care and direction. Beginners are taught to draw trumps as soon as possible, but that isn't always the best plan. Sometimes you need those trumps. Take a look at this hand. Here we are in 4 hearts. The opposition have led a spade, and we look at the hands. Our first reaction is we want to draw trumps. This is wrong. We want to get rid of our little losing spade, and we want to rough it in dummy. So, after roughing the spade, we then draw trumps and make our contract.
Yeah, that's fine, Michelle. I don't know if you know, but in America, pulling trumps or drawing trumps is actually referred to as taking the kiddies off the street. Well, I didn't know that. And one day in America, in a bridge tournament, you see, in a busy bridge tournament, a reporter or television reporter came up to me and said, will you give a little interview for television? Of course, I was happy, you know, kind of
no, not easy,
quick blow dry of the hair and run to the other room.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and so the woman said to me, would you like to talk about taking the kiddies off the street? So I thought, what the hell? You know, she wants me to talk about the degeneracy of our youth and the drug problem. And I gave a long lecture about, you know, well, our children today need to play bridge to stop them taking off the street. And after about 10 minutes, she looked at me and said, are you some kind of nut? Making faces. So I said, oh my God. And then after that, it actually took the program out. But I found out later that I should have been talking about drawing trumps. It was the biggest goof I made for years, but what can you do? Anyway, now we want to go on to the stop procedure, which is the next most important thing we have to discuss.
I suppose it's up to me to do the technicalities again. Zia, you're ruining my reputation. Anyway, the one guide we feel is the most vital aid to becoming a good declarer is what we call the stop procedure. I can promise you that if you apply this, you will greatly improve your results. Stop is something you have to do on every hand you play. And stop is not just an instruction. The letters stop stand for the fundamentals necessary on each and every hand. S signifies stop, to consider your goal, and includes analysing the opening lead. T equals tally your winners and losers. O is organise your plan. And P is put that plan into operation. Zia, you invented this stop.
In fact, I think you gave a good advertisement for it, actually, and it's right, and I think it is a very vital lesson. In fact, let's now go across to our friends and see them put this into operation.
Dermot is south and David is north. They both have balanced hands of opening bid strength, so we'd expect a game to be reached in fairly straightforward fashion.
One no trump.
Pass.
3 no trump.
Pass.
Pass.
Pass. It's my lead.
Dermot has arrived in 3 no trumps. When the lead is made, he should be forming his plan in accordance with the stop principle. What is he actually thinking?
If Joan has the king, I can play the queen and get an extra trick.
Dermot wasn't really thinking about the full hand at all. All he could see was a spade finesse, but the finesse lost. Cheryl switched smartly to a club and Dermot lost 4 club tricks and a spade for 1 down in 3 no trumps. Let Zia explain what he should have done.
Well, here is a good example of how, if Dermot had employed the stop procedure, he might have avoided the slight accident that he ended up with. The S, if he had stopped to consider his goal, would have meant that he realized he only needed to make 9 tricks in 3 no trumps. The T, the prospect of tallying your winners and losers, would have made him find that he already had 9 tricks and didn't need to fall into the temptation of taking the finesse for the 10th. The O, organizing his plan, would have been that, well, his plan was just to take the tricks that he already had and not worry about over tricks. And the P, putting the plan in operation, was again an extension of the same thing, just winning the first trick and claiming. He would have turned to the opponents and they would never have gone down.
I know experts have quite a different view from beginners about finesses here.
Well, yeah, this hand was good because the temptation of a finesse, especially when you start, is so great, it's often very hard to resist it. And lots of people, when they learn about the finesse, like to take it. But actually, for an expert, this is like the last thing they want to do. We think of a finesse as like the Garden of Eden, the apple, the serpent in front of us, you know, offering us that tempting apple, and we're not going to take it unless it's the last thing we do. Mind you, we do sometimes eat apples, why lie? But mostly we try to find any other way to do it and take a finesse as the last resort. Actually, I've got a hand where I played in a tournament recently, and it's one which offers a lot of opportunities for finesse, but also has another possibility. And I've given it to our friends over there, and let's see how they deal with it.
David is north and Cheryl is south. They have 33 points between them, usually enough for a small slam. They have no suit fit longer than 7 cards, so it's reasonable that the auction should end as it does, with Cheryl making the final bid.
Six no trump.
Pass.
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 Cheryl has to make 6 no trump, that's 12 tricks. She should be planning her play on the stop principle as dummy goes down. There are 3 diamond tricks, 4 hearts, 2 clubs and a spade for a total of 10 tricks. Cheryl needs to find 2 more. There are finesse positions in both black suits and the possibility of a long suit trick in diamonds.
There's lots of tricks around. I'm going to start with the club finesse.
At this point, the contract is secure. Cheryl has 4 clubs, 3 diamonds, 4 hearts and the ace of spades for 12 tricks. Relieved that the contract seems to be making, Cheryl is happily cashing her winners. But at bridge, when you've done the hard part, you still have to take care of the easy part. This next trick is crucial and Cheryl makes a slip, which dooms the contract to defeat.
I can't believe what I've done. I've taken the right finesse in the clubs, but I've got myself stuck in my hand, and I've lost out on all these diamond tricks.
Well, there we are. We had some good news and we had some bad news. Bad news for poor Cheryl who went down, but good news for me because she did what I was hoping she'd do, and now we can discuss the hand and make the point that I wanted to. Let's start by seeing how many tricks she had in her contract of 6 no trumps. She started with 1 spade trick, the ace, 4 heart tricks, that's 5, 3 diamond tricks, the ace, king, queen, that's 8, and 2 club tricks, ace and the king. She started with 10 tricks and had to make 2 more. What she did in practice was get seduced by all the finesses available to her and dived into one, the club finesse, and took it. She had a good guess and guessed it right, and now actually had 12 tricks, 3 club tricks, 3 diamond tricks, 6, 4 heart tricks, 10, and 1 spade trick, 11, but a 12th because the clubs were 3-3. So she had her contract and actually went down later because she hadn't done enough planning at the beginning of the hand by stopping and cut herself off from dummy. But that was incidental. What we are more interested in looking at is the way in which the finesse she took, was it really necessary? Now I want you to come into my mind and watch me as I think, as I go into this hand and how I would have played it. I would have first stopped on the opening trick on the 10 of diamonds. And I would have thought how many short tricks I have, just as she did, and I would have found that I had the same 10 tricks. But I would have again gone and said, if I stop and see what the object of my hand is, the S, I would find that to make 12 tricks, I had to find 2 more. The tally told me I had 10, and now I would look again. I would see that if I have to take a finesse, I want to do it at the last possible moment. What is the last possible? How long can I avoid it? And this is what I would do. I would win the king of diamonds and cash 3 rounds of hearts. On the 3rd round of hearts, I would be in dummy, and now I would play the ace and the queen of diamonds, throwing 2 spades away from my hand. Those little spades I didn't need anyway. When I saw that the diamonds were breaking 4-3, I would know that by giving West a diamond, I would set up an extra trick. But at the same time as I set up that extra trick and threw a club which originally looked so promising, the man on my left would have nothing left to do but play either a spade or a club and save me having to guess which finesse to take. And that's how I would have avoided the problem that Cheryl had of having to guess and allow West to do the guessing for me. It's slightly complicated, but basically all I was trying to do, avoid taking a finesse at the beginning and letting the opponent do my work for me. I hope that didn't sound too complicated, Michelle, but now we've gone through the basic finesse and stop procedure. Maybe we can get on to something more interesting.
Well, I don't know about more interesting, it's technical yet again. A common problem people have, Zia, is feeling that when one is declarer, one has to have a very good memory. How do you actually feel about this?
Well, this is actually a complete fallacy, and it's, I would say, totally untrue, because to be a good declarer, you have to be aware of what's happening, but you don't have to remember more than a few tricks, not 52 cards and all in little slots like people think. There's actually a story about 3 declarers or very good dummy players who were captured in the war. And one was an English girl, gorgeous, something like you. One was a Pakistani guy, not so gorgeous, but something like me. And one was something like Gordon, a Scottish, our producer for the series. 3 of us. And the person who caught him happened to be an Irishman. And the Irishman caught these 3 in the prison of war, and he brought them to the camp. And he said to them, look, I'm also a bridge player, and I'm going to let you out of prison if you can answer a simple question that I'm going to ask you. And I'll ask you each a simple question, and as soon as you answer it correctly, you can go. And it's just a small memory question. So we all answered, and you were the lady, so you went first, or the girl who looked like you went first. And the question the prisoner was asked was, in the 1990 World Bridge Championship, where was this taken place? It was a very easy question because it was just the same year, and the answer was Geneva, and the lady was allowed to go free.
Good.
The second prisoner was the Pakistani, who was slightly less friendly or liked by the Irishman, and he said to him, how many people were at that tournament? The Pakistani exerted his memory and said 4,423, which was the actual figure. And that was fantastic, his memory was great, and he was allowed to go. The Irishman didn't like Scott so much, so he turned round to the third one, Gordon, and said, what were the names of all those players? I think that's an exaggeration, and really you don't need to keep a memory going as long as that.
Another tip we feel is very important in declare a play is how one's personality should change according to the contract you're in. For example, if you're in a good contract, you should look pessimistically at the hand. What can go wrong? How are they going to get me? If you're in a bad contract, which looks hopeless, think, okay, it looks pretty bad, but what can go right for me? How can I possibly make this? And think that way. It's amazing what happens. Now again, on a light note, Zia, you're world famous for doing very strange things at the table.
That sounds terrible.
I stress at the table, yeah. Would you like to enlighten us about a few?
Well, I think hopefully you're referring to the kind of my declare play and nothing.
I mean, what
not
else?
my antics or anything. But no, what I do is actually in my mind. I agree. I love flamboyant and funny plays and extraordinary and kind of plays that nobody else made, and I divide them in my mind as the good ones, as I call sexy plays, and the bad ones I call smelly plays. And I try and avoid the smelly plays and stick to the sexy plays.
I don't blame you.
Now, some of the sexy plays are things that I can perhaps, or concepts that I can perhaps tell you about. And one of those particularly I was thinking the other day, it was a hand that actually came up. And it's to do with the fact when you're in a hopeless situation and you have no kind of way in which you think you're going to make a contract, it's a bit like your optimism thing, you have to do something strange and unique. Now look at this graphic and I'll show you what I mean. Here I am in 3 no trumps, and there's a fantastic suit line waiting for me to set up, which once I do, I can make my 9 tricks. But as soon as the defenders win the trick on this long suit, they can see my singleton queen of spades in dummy, and they're going to switch to that, and you can see I've got 4 little spades in my hand. They're going to take all their tricks. So I'm never going to make the hand. Once I knock out that ace, they're going to take that. That's for sure. The only chance I have of avoiding this defeat which is going to occur is by myself playing the suit that they're about to play when they get in. And I'm going to play a spade myself before they do, so they will perhaps, not definitely, but perhaps think I've got strength in that suit and then go and attack another place. And actually it works many times. It's called, in my opinion, a sexy play, but one that anybody can do. If you're in a contract where you have got enough tricks, but you don't have the time to take them, because the opponents are going to go and grab your throat and squeeze you and take one of the weaknesses of yours and beat you there, go first for your own weakness and make it pretend it's your strength. If that works, you get the opponents, and they won't get you. Well, now you know that technique, which is yet one more of the secrets which I have. I'll tell you another principle of declare a play, which is perhaps very good to adopt. This one I learnt from a friend of mine in New York, a man called Jack Dreyfus. You may or may not have heard of him, but he's a man who made a fortune. He actually invested all his money in Polaroid in the days when he thought 3D glasses were going to become very famous. But 3D glasses went out of fashion, but meanwhile the Polaroid camera came in and he made a fortune. He's a very wealthy man. And one day he gave me a tip. He said, look, Zia, in life and in bridge as well, whatever edge you can have, make for yourself. Improve the odds so you have a little bit going for you. So I said, well, what do you mean? Give me an example. He said, say somebody came to you tomorrow, took out a £1 note from their pocket and said, would you bet that the last number on this note is odd or even? I said, well, that's a stupid question, Jack. It's like 50-50. Whatever he says, I mean, I could bet either way, and sometimes I'll be right, and half the time I'll be wrong. He said, well, that's what most people think. But I'll tell you how to get that little edge. Always bet that that note is odd. I said, why should that be? He said, think back. think back to the first note that was ever made, and think if somebody had come to you at the end of that note being made and said, bet on a note being odd or even, what would it be? I said it would be number 1. He said, well, there have been an awful lot of notes printed since then, and it's only a little edge, but every little bit helps you. So I actually always do, but I always bet on the notes now that way. And I mean, I don't know if I win more than not, but I like the point. And the point is one we can carry over into the world of bridge, of trying, when you have a position, of improving your chances to the very, very last nth degree. And let's go over to our pupils, because I've set up a hand for them where they might just be able to do that and see how they get on.
Joan is south and Dermot is north. They have a 4-4 heart fit and 32 points between the hands. 32 is not always enough for a small slam to be a sound contract, but with Dermot as your partner, you would certainly expect to end up in Joan's final contract.
6 hearts.
Pass.
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 Mine 6 hearts.
Joan is, quite rightly, taking a while to plan her play using the stop principle. She's making a firm plan before playing to the first trick. Very good advice for all of us to follow. Decide what you at home would do before seeing how Joan gets on. First of all, Joan needs a little luck in the trump suit. If an opponent had 4 trumps, Joan's task would be hopeless.
Oh. I'm not meant to do that.
This time the trumps are kind to her, and she's able to draw all the defender's trumps by playing 3 rounds of the suit. Now, where does she go from here?
I've taken out trumps, and I'm always going to lose a diamond trick. My best hope now is that David has the king of spades, and I can finesse it.
So Joan plays a spade from dummy to her jack, but Cheryl has the king and wins the trick with it. 1 down. Bad luck, Joan. Or was it?
Well, that was interesting. And now let's have a look at the graphic and see what happened there exactly. Well, the contract was great, and the trumps broke. Joan did what I would expect nearly everybody from beginner to mid-expert would have done, and that is to look at the hand, see quite soon that she had a diamond loser that was inevitable, and that if the spade finesse worked, she was going to make the hand. And as soon as possible, and as soon as she worked that out, she took the spade finesse, but found it was wrong and went down, and would never even have noticed the fact that she might have made it if I hadn't been here to tell her. Now, what I would like you to do is once again come into my mind and watch me as I attack this problem from the declarer or her point of view. This is what I would have done if I had been playing this hand. I would have got to the same contract, hopefully, and then I would have looked at the hand and said, well, yes, if the spade finesse is right, I'm going to make this hand. But one, we've decided that if we have to take a finesse, we should do it always at the last possible moment, not the first possible moment. And second, anything I can do before that, which doesn't cost the contract, I should. So, I would have drawn the trumps, and now I would have played my clubs off. I would have played my clubs off and thrown a diamond from dummy. I wouldn't have seen particularly the great purpose I'm doing it. I would have done it almost as an automatic play. And often what happens is you make plays for which you really don't know the logic or the reason, but you just play because they're not going to cost you in any way, and sometimes they work out well. And on this hand particularly, I would be doing just that. No real motivation or aim or objective to what I was doing. After I'd played the clubs, again, I'm going to take the spade finesse, but no hurry, I would have played a diamond to the ace and another diamond. and got to this position. Now you see what's happened. West, who originally started with only a doubleton diamond, the king, has to play a spade into my ace-jack. I hadn't even foreseen this position, really. I actually stumbled on it by accident. But by just going through good technique and postponing the key play as long as possible into the hand as I could, I made this hand. So I'm not taking so much credit for this hand of being a brilliant player and having foreseen what I was going to do. All I did was do something automatically and fall into it. And as I fell into it, so can you fall into such plays. Postpone the moment of truth as long as possible, and sometimes good things happen.
One of the things you have to remember always is that bridge is a game, and we should all be playing it for fun, for enjoyment. Of course, we do get serious about it. We play seriously in championships and tournaments. We get very intense sometimes, and sometimes we even get angry. And I think we should learn to control ourselves, because if not, fun will go out of the game of bridge. So my tip to you is try to enjoy bridge. Whatever the circumstances, try and, even if you have a bad board, forget it. Have fun, be nice to your partner, and just hope that the next board will be better.
Well, we've got through a lot of stuff this week, and I hope it's going to be useful to you. Goodbye and see you soon.